Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Secretary and General, for all of your service. I wanted to start by asking about the A-10s. The Air Force is proposing disbanding A-10 aircraft at the 917th Fighter Group at Barksdale Air Force Base and the Louisiana National Guard's 259th Air Traffic Control Squadron at England Air Park. Now, they have been used extensively in joint training, specifically at the Joint Readiness Training Center at Fort Polk in the Green Flag East exercises. 70% of all those exercises involve those A-10s, and that training is absolutely essential, best training available for the sorts of conflicts we have been in. And I'm concerned that the Air Force decision to cut that is being made in a narrow smokestack while the use is joint, and that's not fully being appreciated or factored in to the decision. Can you tell me specifically what consultation with the Army or with the Louisiana National Guard went on before that Air Force decision was made?
Sir, I can back to the strategy-driven changes here. The adjustments in the strategic guidance impacted the second major contingency and directed us not to plan for extended operations for stability operations on an ongoing basis. That's what affected the force structure requirements for the second contingency most. And having come off of recent fighter force structure adjustments to the F-16 force and to the F-15 force, that strategic guidance focused us on taking additional risk in the A-10 force structure. So that is how we got to additional reductions in the A-10. And then we worked through, as the Chief and I have described, the more detailed analysis of inside the A-10 force structure, the active and reserve component mix, making sure that we had the right balance so that we could meet the requirements of the strategy, we could meet surge requirements, and we could maintain an ongoing expeditionary operations if required to do so. Make sure we didn't break the active force.
And in all that strategic context, what was the consultation ahead of the decision with the Army regarding this specific decision and Louisiana National Guard?
The Army was certainly part and parcel of this conversation throughout. They were at the table when these decisions were taken. I'm not saying they liked them, but they understood them. And again, General McKinley was also at the table and was aware of this, and we interacted with him. I can't say for certain whether the tag from Louisiana was informed.
And with regard to this JRTC training at Fort Polk, will anything replace those A-10s?
Just like at the National Training Center out in California, we'll support the training demand there as we do in California.
Now, the nearest, at least, A-10s are a ways away. Was there a cost analysis done of what that involves compared to what we're doing now?
Senator, again, we need to sort of remember that A-10 isn't the only airplane that can do close air support or do fast FAC, as we call it. The F-16 is certainly capable of doing that. The F-15E is. We have big airplanes, including the B-1, doing close air support, as you're aware. So the bottom line is here that while history sort of encourages us to think in traditional terms, there is more variety out there to support the training and the close air support mission than just the A-10.
Well, take the A-10 out of my last question. What will replace that aspect of training at JRTC, and what's the cost analysis of that? Was that done prior to the decision?
I don't recall whether there was a cost analysis of what replaces it, but back to the Chief's point, there are a number of assets available to support the JRTC. So it would depend on what the demand signal is for an exercise in terms of how the Air Force would support it, where those assets might come from to do that work. I would also add, in addition to the platforms the Chief has mentioned, the remotely piloted aircraft that we have added have brought air-to-ground capability that is being used extensively as well.
Okay. On the Global Strike Command, as you all know very well, that was stood up in December 2009 to improve the safety and security and effectiveness of nuclear-capable assets, particularly following the 2007 nuclear weapons incident. Is there any discussion whatsoever now about reversing that decision and going to the pre-Global Strike Command model?
No.
Great. And final focus, B-52 funding. B-52s continue to be very significant in so many ways. One of the proposed cuts that impacts them is the Connect program, which would provide digital communication and mission retasking capability. Give us a sense of why you think that's justified and what capability the B-52s will be left with absent that upgrade.
The B-52s will have an older but sustainable communication system, both for tactical and strategic comm. And this was an affordability issue for us, and that was the primary motivation, that we could perform the mission with the legacy system, and that's what we decided to stay with.
And just in layman's terms, one big difference would be that the planes have to sort of come back and land to be retasked in terms of a mission compared to what the Connect capability would have been.
There is still an airborne retasking capability, not as versatile, not as broadband, but there's still an airborne retasking capability.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator Vitter. Senator Manchin.